Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Speak Audibly's 100% Me podcast. It's your friend, your brother, Mike Wilson. And today we have an amazing interview for you. It's with Mr. Rich Parsons. Rich is the CEO and founder of a company called Higher Calling Consulting, and he is an amazing storyteller, and he wants to show you how to become a storyteller yourself. But as excited as I know you are to get into the episode, be sure first to hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell so you know anytime we release new videos. Before we jump into our episode, I want to give a shout out to my friends at J-Gen Ministry. Right now they're doing a J-Gen conference. That's the Joshua generation. These individuals and these pastors are coming together to reach our youth. And one of them in particular is my brother, Pastor Jeff Abiera. Jeff, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to speak to your congregation this weekend. I love you, my man. I hope you guys will go and check out their website, their link, their conference. It's all in the show links. Go check them out, all right? Give some support. Now, without further ado, let's jump in with Rich. Hey guys, welcome to SpeakAudibly.com. My name is Mike B. And I'm here with my son. We're playing at the dog park here. It's amazing. Hey guys, so we are on with Mr. Rich Parsons. Rich, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty awesome, man. Colorado Springs is beautiful. We got a great sunny day, and it's a holiday weekend, so
There you go.
can't ask for much more. Well, maybe the ability to go on a trip somewhere, but
Right.
doing well.
Right. Well, guys, I met Rich actually through a LinkedIn connection. So we're part of the same network here, and Rich has an amazing business that we're going to have him go ahead and talk about here soon. But before we do that, Rich, I want to know a little bit more about you. Tell us about you, your family, and what it is that you do, sir.
Yeah, so my wife, she is a health promotion coordinator and exercise physiologist. She's working at the VA center here in Colorado Springs, helping our vets get more physically fit and live a healthier life. And my son just moved back from Germany to finish up his senior year, so he's doing well and really happy to have him here. It's been a little while since he's lived with us. So anyway, doing well there. And my business really launched from my time in the military. I had 27 years in the Air Force, and I retired at the end of 2018. And then last year, kind of mid-year, I had an opportunity to open my own business, which had been a passion of mine and a dream for a while. So Higher Calling Consulting was launched in May of last year. And I just enjoy the opportunity to be able to help people in various ways to just improve themselves and live the best life that they possibly can. And get their story out. I love speaker coaching and helping people get their story. As a matter of fact, today I've got a Facebook Live going through a life story timeline. And so my business is a passion for me, as I'm sure it is for most entrepreneurs. And I'm happy to be here. And
Yeah,
it's awesome.
No, we're happy that you are here, sir. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for your service to our great country. I can't thank you enough because there's so many freedoms, those little things that we take for granted that you guys have been out on the front lines. And I thank you so much for your duty, sir.
I appreciate it. You're welcome, man.
Now, speaking of military, how has your time in the military prepared you for consulting and doing what you do today?
Well, I felt that it was a really good transition in that through the military, you had the opportunity to just meet and interact with a diverse group of people. And, all the way down from the lowest level employee up to the highest level officer. And that translates very well to what's out in the civilian sector. So being able to work with different people groups and interact with folks and learn how to connect with them on a personal level, and just the leadership experience and my own growth in the military and just the challenges that we've had and that you face as a military member, it really solidified within me the opportunity to to really lead and coach and mentor people. And my time, I served as a military, professional military education instructor, where we taught
Wow.
leadership development and human resource management and all that stuff. So I'm able to transfer that now into my business. But
Yeah.
having had that growth throughout my career, it prepared me to be a better leader and a better person, and I'm
Wow.
able to use that to this day.
Wow. No, that's great because I mean, if you are listening to this right now or watching this, you're probably a part of the Speak Audibly community, the Speak Audibly family. And you guys know I only bring people on here who have a heart for people. And that's why Rich is here. Rich, you definitely have a heart for people. And I'm thinking about these opportunities that you've had in the military because in my mind, it goes straight to like high alert, urgent. You're dealing with situations that are unlike some of the situations that we deal with on the regular basis. So
Right.
how has working with those people and those groups of people, I mean of all different kinds, how has that helped you in times like a pandemic?
Yeah, and it is kind of, it's not funny, but it's interesting how there are, a crisis is a crisis, and people deal with
Mm-hmm.
crises in different ways. And whether it's the crisis of being in Afghanistan and having to go out on a convoy and interact with the local nationals,
Yeah.
and helping people deal with those things to where you don't know what threat is out there. You don't know what's coming next. And it just really, you have to stay engaged. And that's what I've found through this time, is that really it comes down to engagement. As you're engaging with your people, especially those that are working in a remote environment
Yeah.
where you sit next to a few people, now you're across town, and those
Right.
connections have to come through Zoom meetings and through FaceTime. And so I
Yeah.
think that by using the ability to handle crisis and get to know people at their level and find out what concerns them and what their pain points are, you're able to I'm able to transfer that over now and do the same thing and just talk to people.
Yeah.
And I hate to dwell on the pandemic, but I look at it as a crisis. And I had a speaking opportunity last week, and the crisis that I talked about was, it doesn't matter what it is. People view crises in different ways, and they deal with them in different ways. So it's just getting to know them and what they need, and then addressing that issue for them and being there.
Sure. Sure. I mean, one of the things that I know through this time period, because this is my first real crisis as an adult, and so for me, it's just like, wow, I've never seen what business looks like on this side of things, especially now that I'm trying to do it and I have kids running around, right? I'm sitting in an office in a bedroom and I have my sons right on the other side of the door, and now I am Mr. Homeschool teacher. So, in regards to schooling, how do you think this will look here in the next upcoming months when the new school year starts to roll around?
Well, I know for here in Colorado Springs, they're already looking ahead. Obviously, that they're kind of looking at maybe doing a bit of a hybrid model where there's some schooling at the actual school, and then there's some schooling at home as well. So um, I think that is probably going to be the way things look initially, and it's going to depend on the size of the community and what have you. But I think that there is some level of online, or maybe not homeschooling as much, but some hybrid online type school options that are going to continue for a
Mm,
while, because I think this has opened up the eyes of of people to the possibilities of that there are other ways to learn,
yeah.
and they're having to adjust to that. My next door neighbor, she's got two little girls, and it's been a change for her. She's a stay at home mom, but she wanted to get out and start working.
Wow.
But now, because she's been a homeschooling parent, it's created challenges for that. So I think it's here to stay for a little while. But I hope that when they do go back to school, that they're smart about it, and it's going to require discipline because just like here when they went from stay at home to safer at home,
Right.
people safer at home meant I can go out, and so people just kind of started flooding some places. But it's
Yeah.
um it's a different time for sure. But
It
I
really is.
believe online schooling is going to be around for a little bit anyway.
Yeah, so when it comes to, I mean, I know like colleges and those higher education platforms, they have already had a platform for online. A lot of those. When we
Yep.
talk, primary and that kind of secondary, that middle school, high school, do you think that this remote way of teaching is beneficial? You think? I mean, just in your opinion, do you believe that it will actually translate to students learning at that young age?
Oh man, that's hard to say. I personally believe that there is value in being around other people in an
Right.
educational environment because you learn so much from other people, and sometimes the way a person learns is, especially if they're having a challenge in a certain area, maybe they watch how another person does something, and
Mm,
not cheating,
right.
but watch how they're doing something, and they pick up on that, and they realize that, oh man, that works for me too.
Right.
So I think this really brings in a new level of engagement from the educators in
Sure. Yeah.
providing the tools to get students uh, to explore other ways of learning. And there's different camps in as far as how we do education. Do you do the typical structured model of butts in a seat,
Right.
or get hours for graduation, or is it content based where they learn the content, and as long as they know it and they're
Mm,
progressing on, it's it's okay. And I know there's different beliefs in
wow. Yeah.
which way students get educated, but it's I think there's value in being together, and
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how social skills are developed based
Yes.
off of the lack of interaction, and that's important at a young age. So if a
Wow.
child, when they're in that age where they're just like sponges taking everything in, and if this goes on for a while and maybe they're limited in how they are educated, what's that going to do to their social skills if they're not interacting and learning how to do conflict resolution at the
Yeah.
age of 8 in a 8-year-old's way,
So
versus
true.
just I think it's challenging for sure.
Definitely. No, and we will definitely have to keep that conversation going because that's just something that's really been on my mind. And I've watched and read some of your articles, and I'm like, okay, this guy, he's definitely looking at that next turn, that next trend. And that's amazing. So, speaking of schools, let's translate that to business now. Do you think that businesses will forever look different? Do you think that we'll kind of just go back to business as normal? So, just tell us, what way do you think what do you think business will look like after this?
You know, I think there's a lot of people that are, and myself included, I'm looking forward to that first chance I have to sit across the table from a group of my
Mm-hmm.
my peers and friends and have a cup of coffee and just talk
Right.
about business. But at the same time, so I think those things are going to, I think they're going to happen pretty quickly. People are eager to get back out and meet up in coffee shops and meet
Sure.
over lunch and what have you. But what I think this has done is I've seen businesses, and you see it all over social media. Hey, I've had to pivot. I'm now doing all of my masterminds and this and that in a virtual uh, state.
Yeah.
And so I think that there people have realized the value in that. And even one of the programs I was involved in with Advance Your Reach, they have one of their intensive workshops that normally they would do in person in Milwaukee or maybe up in Denver, depending on
Okay.
the workshop. But they had to pivot to do it online, to do virtual, and they actually find that the people that are coming to it, they're getting just as much out of it and it's
Wow.
saving them a few $1,000s in travel costs.
Exactly.
So I think
Wow.
the online virtual option is going to, I think it's going to stay because they see the value in doing that, but there's still going to be that in person that you just can't get away from.
Right. Right.
Now, in businesses, I think the workforce, you know, are you as productive when you're at home?
Right.
There's some discussion with that that people are actually more productive because they're happy and they're able to focus more time. And maybe they may not work as many hours at work, if you will, but they're getting more produced.
Sure.
And so, I think there's benefits both ways, and it'll just have to balance out.
Yeah. No,
But yeah, I tell
that's
you,
awesome.
I'm looking forward to that first cup of coffee with somebody.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I'm kind of going back out a little bit now, getting the oil changed and doing these little, there's still necessities for me and my family, but not without the entire family. And I'm just like, wow, I forget what it really feels and looks like to see someone and look at someone's eyes. That's not,
Mhm.
face to screen to face, but it's
Yeah.
like you're right there. Like I can see you, I can touch you, and that is awesome. Now you've mentioned it a couple times so far in this podcast, engagement. That's a huge word, especially for someone who does storytelling. So let's jump into that. I myself, I love to tell stories. I love to hear stories. I mean, they make you laugh, they make you emotional. You connect in a different way. How has the coronavirus and any crisis really impacted your business narrative?
Um, as far as my business narrative goes, I think the biggest thing that I would say how it's impacted is just my focus has has shifted a little bit on how can I add value to people? How can I benefit them in the situation that we're in right now? And then how am I going to be able to continue that when we do go back to whatever the new normal is? So I really feel that it has it during times like this. Grant Cardone talks about it in his 10x rule that during crises, things like this, a lot of times people want to contract.
Right.
And in all actuality, this is a great time to expand
That's it.
because when this is over, you're going to have many more connections, and people are going to remember the ones that stayed active and
Yep.
didn't just shrink back into their shell. So I think that really this is a time to you ask people how they're doing, what's going on, and hey, can you give me a little feedback on something, or maybe do a couple surveys or ask some questions and gain all of
Wow.
that because that's going to help you in how you move forward.
Sure.
And I love telling stories. I launched a course recently on storytelling and how to develop your story. So I love doing that, and
Sure.
I think that we all have a story to tell, and it's
That's awesome.
worth it for each person to get it developed to share with others.
Yeah. So let's jump into that. So why is it so important to know your story? What is the importance of the story, whether it's in life as a person or in business? What's the importance of the story?
So the importance of the story is I feel that there is no better way to connect with somebody than sharing a story. And that not necessarily from me, the connection's really going to come when I say, hey, Coach Mike, man, tell me about you and what got you to this point. Because
Mm,
Dale Carnegie says we all love talking about ourselves.
that's it.
If you ask a question, that's one of their things in how to win friends and influence people is
Yes.
you ask somebody to talk about themselves, and there's never a problem there. And
Exactly.
now, and then in turn, what that creates is reciprocity to where then the next thing is you're going to be like, hey, Rich, tell me about you. And then
Exactly.
we share about each other, and there's that connection, and we find out where that bond is at. And when we
Yes.
can bond in a certain way, we can find out how we can help each other. And from a business perspective, a book I'm reading right now is called Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall.
Okay.
And they talk about, it's like when you do that and you get that reciprocity there, you're able to, they say, well, tell me what you do. And you're like, well, as a matter of fact, I do such and such. You tell your story, why you got into it, your kind of your origin story. And then they're like, you know what? I think I could use a personality assessment to find out where my strengths are. I could
Right.
use a speaker coach. I could use a business coach, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So those stories create connections, but it's more important to get the other person's story, because then the natural thing is they're going to ask for yours, and then you've put them first, which creates
Right.
that connection.
Right. See, and that's exactly it. What you just laid out was literally a formula for connection. It starts with that
Mm,
engagement, and when you do expand during these times, it's not just a surface expansion, but to expand and go deep with individuals. Because I mean, we're all sitting here, we're all going through the same thing. The coronavirus
yeah.
doesn't care what you look like, it doesn't care how old you are, how much money you make. We're all at home right now, and we're lacking those connections. And so that's awesome to be able to focus on the engagement, build the bonds with people, get to know people's
Mm,
story. That is why it's important. And guys, he's mentioned his course a couple times. We'll definitely have that linked in the comments below, because you're going to want to jump in that. You're going to want to jump in and get any sort of assessments that Rich has for you. Now, Rich, speaking of, what is something that you can offer the Speak Audibly community right now? What do you have for us?
Well, I tell you, given the title of the community, what I would love to offer to people is a worksheet and kind of a walkthrough of the life story timeline. And I think that this is powerful, where you start from the earliest memories you have as a child up until now.
Sure.
And you start plotting that out. And people, it's amazing. I go back through mine every now and then and I think about something. I was like, you know what? I didn't have that in there. And it's like that puzzle that you put together. Sometimes you got to peel it apart a little bit and put another piece in, because
Right.
then it's a better fit. And then that puzzle comes together a lot stronger. So I'd love to offer folks a life story timeline layout, and they can work through that. I give explanations, and of course, I can connect with them to carry them through that a little bit if they need some help, kind of walking it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we move into how to best contact you, I kind of wanted to know a story that you have, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just a pivotal moment in your life, being the storyteller and the speaking coach. What's a
Wow.
moment in your life that you would say, you know what, this segment, this year, this decade, you know, this moment was pivotal for me?
Yeah. Well, my kind of my signature talk, one of the things I share with people, and they're normally blown away by it. I know that my one of my instructors in one of my classes when I was in the military, they didn't know this about me, but I shared that as I came in the military, I realized that through my upbringing or through my environment, that my viewpoint of things were corrupted. I grew up in a as a preacher's kid in a Christian home, and I had values. My dad taught me the values of you know embracing other people for who they are and what they are, and not discriminating against people. But I found out as I joined the military, it became very apparent to me that I was a racist,
Wow.
and it was a pivotal moment. And where it really hit me was when I was in a conversation with some folks in my shop about crashing a supervisor's barbecue, and they he had made a comment. He's like, I don't think so. Well, come to find out, he wasn't that fond of white dudes,
Wow.
and I realized at that point what it was like to not be accepted, and I didn't
Wow.
like it. I realized the pain that I probably inflicted on other people by my own racism, my own discrimination. Now, I wasn't like over the top.
Yeah.
I was what I would consider kind of a closet covert racist.
Sure.
And but what it did is it impacted my relationships with people. I would avoid certain people. I would avoid situations that I didn't want to be in, and I realized that was robbing my happiness. And so I made a decision out of that awareness that I was going to be accepting of people the way God intended it.
Wow.
And because had I not done that, I guarantee you my 27-year career probably wouldn't have been 27 years.
Right.
It would not have been as successful as it was. And I would not have influenced and impacted as many people as I did because I would have
Wow.
limited who I associated with. And so
Wow.
I'm thankful that that transformation happened. It wasn't a great realization, but I'm glad it happened because I look back on my life now, and that's something I would not have wanted to pass on to my kids, and I
Sure.
would not have wanted to just have that lifestyle
Yeah.
showing because that's just not right.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
that
No,
that's that was my transformation.
that's awesome. And we all have these different kind of Damascus moments, and to hear yours, such a beautiful thing. I mean, because what you're talking about is a lot of self-awareness that took
Hmm.
place. Because a lot of people, they can't see that, especially when it comes to race or when it comes to how much money or social economics. It's hard to look that in the face and kind of put that mirror up and say, okay, what do I really think? How am I really
Yeah.
walking through this? And so that is awesome. Wow, guys, I hope you guys got value from that story right there. Rich, what is the best way for our listeners to contact you, sir?
Best way would be to go out to my website, highercallingconsultingllc.com.
Okay.
And on my website, there's a connection form on there that people can fill out. They can connect with me. And those that do, obviously, I want to connect with them and get them that life story timeline and just to give them a call, get to connect and interact with them and see if there's any way that I can help them become a better person, to maybe have their
Awesome.
own moment of awareness and put their story together. Because if their story is going to impact other people, man, that there's nothing more powerful. And
Wow.
realizing that that can happen is great. And obviously, I do more than speaker coaching, but that's what I'm kind of focusing on right
Wow.
now. But it's I've got some courses I can offer, and it's I think I
Awesome.
can add value to people in a special way.
Awesome. Awesome. So, guys, we will again link all of Rich's information down in the show links below. So, please reach out to him, get your story across. For you guys who follow me in any way, shape, or form, I have written now 4 books, and that's exactly why. It's the storytelling, the aspect that these are things that people get to read about me and see how I've grown, and hope that that would give value to you. So, Rich, thank you so much for sharing that. One kind of secret question that I ask all of any of my guests that come on here. I know I've had like 3 for you, but this one here is really important to me, and it stems from The Dark Knight, Batman, the very first one back in the early 2000s. At the end, Two-Face is kind of dead, and he's gonna look like the hero, and Batman's kind of almost framing himself as the bad guy, and so it shows him just running. He's running. There's dogs and cops chasing him, and he's about to go off the grid. And he goes off the grid, he goes into the darkness until the second movie, right, when Bane comes out. But if
Yeah.
you had to go into off the grid, you have to go into the darkness for a little while, get off the map, what would be one last piece of encouragement that you have for our listeners today?
Wow. My last bit of encouragement would be to live your life according to the values, the things that you believe in. Be your authentic self. And if you don't know what that is, find it. Because until you know who you are, you're not able to be the best person you can possibly be.
Wow. Wow, that is powerful. Guys, be your authentic self. Wow. Mr. Rich Parsons, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your heart for people. Thank you for your service to our country. You, sir, are someone that I admire on so many different levels now that we've got to go deeper into this conversation. So thank you for the connection. Thank you for your engagement, sir.
Indeed, man. I look forward to it. Let's keep in touch. Do this
Yes,
again.
sir. We sure will. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, go in those show links, reach out to Rich, get yourself that story timeline so you can build it your authentic self. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Wow, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope through my interview with Rich Parsons that you gained value. that you understand the importance of your story. Go into those show links, pick up his timeline assessment, that worksheet that he has there for you, as well as pick up his course so that he can walk you through telling your story. All right, guys. Again, if you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join our community. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Follow us at Speak Audibly on both of those sites. Remember, here at Speak Audibly, you have a voice. Let it be heard.
I think it's a boomerang effect. I think you help enough people. Zig Ziglar says that. You help enough people, it comes back to you too. So, you've got to go out and give